Hello and welcome to the latest What Happens Next puzzle. The idea is very simple. I'm going to go through a game and at a critical moment I'm going to stop and you have to work out what happens next. Okay, let's plunge in with the game, and it's from the recently played Greek Team Championships, and the player of the black pieces is David Navara, a very strong Czech grandmaster, and it's his move here. He played knight g6, and already I slightly prefer black's position. He has rook on the open file, looks good. These knights look very threatening indeed, perhaps coming to e5, perhaps to f4, perhaps here. Well, they both look strong. But white's position also looks reasonable. I mean, this pawn is very good on d5, of course, blocking out the bishop. I think that's really black's only poor piece at the moment, and the fact that he has to bring these pieces into the game. But yeah, white has some space, so you'd think it shouldn't be too bad for white here. Okay, let's see how things progressed. Knight b3, well that looks reasonable. White would like to perhaps isolate this pawn on a5, maybe bring the knight into this nice square on d4. But now comes knight f4, and black's initiative on the king side is beginning to gather pace, threatening the bishop, so bishop f3. And now Navara didn't want this pawn on a5 to be isolated, so he exchanged off. And then he took on a1, which drags a rook from the king side. So he's basically decided that the a file doesn't really have any significance in this position. He's playing on the king side. And for that reason he played knight d7. Now this is a good move. Of course the knight would like to redeploy perhaps to the e5 square. This is nice. But the real reason, of course, is to bring the queen out. If you're going to have a successful attack, you do need to bring the queen into play. Okay, white played queen f5, which looks pretty reasonable, attacking the knight, and indeed the knight came back. But now there's a threat of knight h4 to grab that bishop. So the bishop came back, and now a nice move, bishop c8. This bishop was doing nothing on b7 anyway, so it redeploys onto this diagonal and helps to expel the queen as there's a discovered attack that can now be made. Okay, the queen came back, and now black carried on with his initiative, knight f4. So the bishop had to retreat, and knight e5. So things are gathering on the king side. King h1, and now queen h4 was played. And this is the position that I'd like you to study and try to find what the best move is. First of all, let me tell you about this move. This is definitely not the best move. This does not win a piece. The queen can come back, and after pawn takes, knight f3, threatening checkmate, and if pawn there, then bishop takes, and it's all over. So not g3. However, I am going to give you two moves to consider. Okay, the first move I'd like you to consider is pawn to f3. Would you like to play that move? And the other move I'd like you to have a look at is rook e1. So those are your two possibilities. Now after this clip is over, on the screen you'll see two buttons, one with f3, one with rook e1. You have to decide which move you'd like to play, and then click on the appropriate button, and that'll bring you through to the next video clip where I'll analyse that option and try to explain what's going on in the position. Good luck!